Hello. Good morning, team. Good morning, crew. Good to see you. Welcome to another Wealth Coffee Chat. Fabulous Friday. Got a few of the regulars in the house. Good to see you. Shashank. Morning. Donna. James. Allison. Great to see you. Aaron. Chris. Brendan. David. Luke's there. David's there. And Danny. Morning. Great to see you here, folks. Thanks for joining me as always. Not always, but mostly during the week, 10 past 8. We do a little bit of something called Wealth Coffee Chat. Been doing it for a while. If you're new, give us a shout out in the chat. Say hello. Great to hear from you, where you are, what you're up to. Like I said, 10 past 8. Jason Witten's my name. If you didn't already know, most of you do. So let's get on with today. I thought today would be a bit of fun if we played a little bit of what if. What if? I was thinking about this. I was pontificating. There you go. What's the definition of that? I use it every now and then, but I'm pretty sure it means thinking, maybe thinking deeply about things. And often, I think, we understand some rules, so some dynamics in nature, in the universe. Well, we understand some. Maybe we don't understand all of them. But one of the interesting things that I was reading about, thinking about, looking at the other day was Isaac Newton's law of motion. Or momentum, I think it is. Isaac Newton's law of momentum or motion. Tell me in the chat, do you guys know what it is? Isaac Newton's law. Roll with me here. Let's talk about this, because today I want to play a bit of what if something happens, and apply a universal law, a law in nature, a scientific proven law to economics, to behavior, to things. And, I think it'd be pretty handy if some of our politicians learnt some science and understood some things about this sort of stuff. Anyway, we'll have a go. We'll see if we can do it today. Does anyone know Isaac Newton's law? There's a few of them, actually. I think he's got a few there. But tell me, what do you guys know? Do you know it? And if you don't, that's okay. An object will continue in motion until external force is experienced. Yep. I think there's a plenty of description there. I think this is a shortened one. Isaac Newton. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. Okay. Interesting. Let's see if that's exactly Isaac Newton. Hey, Isaac Newton. Here we go. Let's see if that's. Have a look at his sayings. Yeah, Isaac Newton's sayings. For every action, there's an opposite and equal reaction. What does that mean? That's what I want to talk about today. To any action, there's always an opposite and equal reaction. In other words, the actions of two bodies upon each other are always equal and always opposite in the opposite direction, blah, blah, blah. All right, let's have a look at that. How does that set us up for our conversation today? Well, I want to play a little bit of what if, and I want to apply this. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. Somewhere else and how governments intervene, how pontificate. Hopefully I'm being dogmatic, Chris. Not pompous, but, you never know. If you don't know me that well, maybe I do sound a bit pompous. But anyway, I'll roll with whatever it works like. Thank you for the definition. There you go. I love that. All right. Equal and opposite reaction. Let's put this in context for today's conversation, because we're property investors, aren't we? But also we're people of the planet, humans. Let's have a look at governments. Let's have a look at governments and they're making decisions, and have a look on the other side here. Right, let's talk about this one. Thankfully, this got canned, but let's have a look. Queensland. The Queensland Premier said, oh, you know what I'm going to do? All these people are coming to Queensland. They're not paying land tax here because, they live in Melbourne or Sydney. They own properties down there. We want to gouge them for land tax. We want to change the law. Matter of fact, the proposal of land tax in Queensland, and I better get on with it today because I've got a few I want to talk about. So, here is the proposal. This is what the Premier proposed. Land tax in Queensland. If you buy property in Queensland, land tax is meant to be a state-based tax, right? It's meant to be state-based, okay? So the law says it's state-based, and it's meant to be state-based, okay? So then Queensland said, well, you know what? We understand it's state-based, but we want to gouge you for more money because we're a bunch of muppets. So what we want to do is we want to add up the properties in, let's say, in Melbourne or Sydney or any other state in Australia that you own, and we want to tax you. We want to calculate the tax you owe us based on all of those properties you own, which, by the way, is illegal. That's called double taxing. Our tax system, it's illegal to double tax you, right? Totally 100% illegal. But they don't care. It's like, you know what? We're going to propose something illegal. So let's tax the punters, not only on the properties they own in Queensland, but as a calculation of the properties they don't own in Queensland, right? So ludicrous. Thankfully, it got shelved, right? Yeah, it got shelved. So let's do this. Let's do the Newton's law, equal and opposite reaction. Tell me in the chat, what do you think a few things, would have happened with this? Okay, Queensland was doing quite well. Queensland had some momentum. Queensland was attractive. People were moving there. Queensland was the beneficiary, the knock-on beneficiary of all of this stuff, right? So now some consequences of that would have been less money flowing into the state, then less income for the state, and then sort of, economic issues into the future. People would have avoided Queensland. So the money they thought they would have made, right, they would have lost. It would have been negative in the millions, tens and tens of millions, because what is money that Queensland makes when people buy here in Queensland? Tell me, what's a big chunk up front that people make or the government makes? Stamp duty, right? And stamp duty was meant to be abolished or gotten rid of when the GST came in. There's another lie and broken promise by governments everywhere. Anyway, so stamp duty. So what this idea was is like, let's gouge, some people. Now, it wasn't going to be everyone. Let's gouge some people this illegal tax so we can try and get some money. And then what the consequences of that would have been, investors were like, yeah, we're out. Melbourne, here we come. Yeah, I'm going to a better state. So they would have taken their money out elsewhere. And the land tax they would have gained, let's say, on one property might have been, a couple of $1,000 versus the stamp duty, folks, of $30,000. So brain dead, right? Going after $2,000 And the consequences would have been losing $30,000 worth of revenue. The compounding effect would have been shit house, brain dead, short-term gouge, long-term disaster. Yep, it would have been an issue on supply. It would have been an issue, on the state's ability. Anyway, disaster. All right. Okay, let's do another what if. Let's do this one. Has a good concept. All the landlords are evil bastards and, so-and-so's. Let's gouge them. No, we should just ban, you can't put your rent up for 2 years. All right, so let's just do a what if on that one, right? The Greens are lunatics when it comes to this stuff. Okay. Yeah, okay. Well, our interest rates go from 2% to 6%, right? 6%, right? 2% to 6%. That's the cost of our interest as investors. So our rents were kind of there. So then they go, no, for 2 years, you can't put your rent up. So you can't cover your costs. You can't even try and, cover some costs for 2 years. What would happen? What would happen for investors? Not only this, there would be a disaster of investors. And again, it would have a knock-on effect on supply. Supply would go down. Who would do it? Valuations would plummet, go down. Defaults on mortgages go down. Bank shares go like lunacy, right? And then let's say if people made it to the 2 year mark, what would they do on year 2 after 2 years of pain, stupidity, not being able to increase prices just a little bit at a time? What would happen? If my rents were $400 a week here, and I have to wait 2 years and be kicked the shit out of, economically for 2 years because some turkey still lives at home with his mum and doesn't pay rent, or have a mortgage, massive increase of rent. You know what happens? The shock, you'd go from $400 to $800 a week. That's what would happen. And all that does is it kicks the can down the road a little bit for political gain. Oh, look, they paused it. They saved me some pain for a year or two, and they kicked it down the road for later, right? Brain dead, all right? The problem with these concepts is there is zero thinking about any consequences into the future, right? This is popularity, trying to find a voter base, young people who can't get into the property market, having some challenges or problems, looking for a vote. It's gross. It's stupid, right? Talk about the reality of things. Give them a hand. Give them a chance to get in. I've got a heap of bloody ways that we could help young people get into the property market. Stupid. There we go. Another one. Let's get rid of capital gains tax, CGT, and let's get rid of negative gearing, right? Negative gearing, the ability to do that. Anyway, you guys here know the drill. If there's a cost that is not able to be offset by the owners of this real estate, who ends up paying the cost here? Not only if you get rid of capital gains tax and negative gearing, right? What has to go up significantly? Folks, tell me what has to go up significantly to offset the cost of no negative gearing, right? Well, the rent. So right now, right, the government, and anyway, negative gearing's available everywhere. It's not just for property investors. Wake up and smell the roses, you lot. Understand that negative gearing is applicable anywhere in the Australian tax system for any asset that depreciates in value. Rent and values. Exactly, Chris. The rent goes up, the values go up. What does that do? It does the exact opposite, of what they're talking about trying to fix. Here's what happens. I should get this. In a couple of the Scandinavian countries, right? So when you have no tax deductions and you've owned a property for 10 or 20 years and you go, right, if I sold this right now and also supply goes down, if I sold this, supply down, if I sold this property now, I bought it 20 years ago for 500, now it's worth 2 million. It would be nothing worse, in my mind anyway, than selling that and paying tax on 100% of my gain. What a kick in the face by the government. And you know what people would do? They wouldn't sell. Matter of fact, that's probably not a bad idea. Lock that one away, Jason. And it would affect the supply chain. People wouldn't sell, right? The rents would go up to cover the shortfall because, unfortunately, the cost gets passed on to the end user. Brain dead. Absolutely brain dead again. You know, let's keep going. Let's have a chat about this. This is an interesting one. Has a few things in the mix right now. There's a conversation in and around the overseas migration and unlocking some of the labor market testing. So this is a really interesting one, right? So what's happening right now is there's a wage, a certain ceiling, right? There's a certain ceiling. I think it's $57,000, and this is going up, right? There was a certain ceiling on certain visas coming into the country that a temporary visa or not a migration visa. I can't remember what the visa's called. Anyway, if you're coming from somewhere else and you come into Australia, a certain framework about what jobs and, blah, 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 right? So, which was, and I don't know a lot about the history of this, so I'm just talking about some of the consequences here. So, okay, now if we say, all right, they're going to change the threshold, which was restrictive, let's say, and when you look at it, I'm like, oh shit, that should have been changed a long time ago. It's been stuck at 57 or something for like 20 years, right? So again, now they say, all right, well, what are we going to do? We're going to unlock that threshold because we need to attract more people. I'm in agreement with that. We need more people in Australia. So they're going to unlock this threshold, and it's going to go from 57 to 90. Tell me, folks, what happens there? The shock that goes through to let's say, goes to who employs most of these people, small to medium business owners, right? Now, this is not a conversation about paying people more. I'm happy to pay people more as business owners and stuff. Like, this is the shock. This is kind of, they haven't done anything for this for 20 years. Now they're going to do the shock of unlocking this threshold. Now people go, oh, I'm not going to work for 57. Fair enough. My price is 90. That now is a cost to small to medium businesses. Tell me, folks, if your costs went up, $23,000 in one go like that, boom, what's going to happen? So number one, if you survive, small to medium business owners, struggle. They do. And on the back of COVID, if they survive, so some, they'll just go out of, I'll go out of business. A really good friend of mine owned a really nice cafe right next to my office. Mate, he's out. He can't run it anymore. It was pretty sad. I went to his last day the other day on Sunday for breakfast. It broke my heart. You can't do it. You can't do it. You can't, put coffee up to $9. Well, you could, but, I'm not going to pay it. You're not going to pay it, right? So they're going to go broke. And then what happens is who's going to foot the bill if they stay in business? Where they're going to pass that on to the customer. And that just fuels what, folks? It fuels inflation. I don't understand. I don't understand what I just don't understand. Aren't we meant to be trying to keep inflation down? Anyway, yep, I'm a bit, a bit on the rant this morning. Yeah, I think it is. I think it's all pent up, Brendan. I think I've got to get Andy back on the Wealth, Wine, and Wisdom to release my rants. So there you go, my Friday afternoon release. There's another one. We did a threshold for first home buyers in Sydney. What happened? When you artificially create a threshold, artificially create like a boundary that what happens? You go right up to 1.5 million in Sydney. All of the first home buyers pay, less stamp duty and have less issues. Well, what happens to that price point, folks? What happens to that price point? Right? It's artificially stimulated by more buyers in that price point than there is supply. And now 1.5 disappears and everything's 1.6. Right? Wake up and smell the roses. All they did was artificially increase. Look, sharp increase in demand for properties under that price. So now what happens is, a property that was maybe 1.2, now people put it up to 1.5, right? So they artificially increase either the selling prices or what people will pay. It's like, but anyway, there you go. Artificial increase there. Another one. There we go. The weakness of Australia's cyclical small investor reliant model. It's not small and it wasn't weak until the government broke it, right? When they brought in those APRA knobs, that then absolutely poleaxed our supply system. It was actually working brilliantly. It put itself back together fantastically after the GFC. Anyway, that's my opinion, right? So here we go. What's going to happen? The government has broken something that has worked well for decades. They broke it. And now what are they going to do? Because they broke it and they should have had a think about it, they're going to go, you know what we're going to do? We're going to allow large conglomerates, large multi-billion-dollar funds to buy all of our sites, and we're going to give them massive tax deductions to do so. So you and me, folks, you and I, we don't get land tax deductions for supplying, properties to the marketplace. No, they're going to give them 50% land tax deductions, right? And they're going to give them all these other benefits. They're going to give them access to low funding, 3% loans to construct these things. So all that's going to happen, what happens? Now those properties, 70% of the development sites in Melbourne purchased in the last 12 months, which is the high density ones, built to rent, folks. What does that do? What does that do to the owner-occupier, high-quality supply chain? It's gone, right? It's over, right? How can that recover? How can our supply chain recover? Anyway, I'm on a rant. Question, what's that going to do? Well, I think that's going to push up rents and push up values of quality stuff. That's what's going to happen, folks. That's what's going to happen. I think I've got more here, but I don't have time. Anyway, I think I better get Fenton back on Wealth, Wine, and Wisdom. Over time a little bit today, but anyway, you guys know the drill, right? You guys understand what I was talking about today. They don't think about the consequences. They don't particularly care. I don't care what party they're in. Listen, they're all the same, unfortunately. Sadly. So for us as property investors, what do we do about this stuff? Well, we need to understand. We need to understand the consequences of decisions and what they might mean to us. Sadly, you know what? Sadly, this is the sad thing. This is the sad thing for people who aren't property investors, the people who are locked out, the people who are, the people who the government and these policies are so-called trying to protect, they actually just make it worse. They make it worse for those people. Most of these policies are going to be fine for me and you when we own our real estate and we know how to manage our buffers and our risk and all that sort of stuff. Anyway, there you go. Anyway, rant over. Friday frantic rant or something. Anyway, there you go, folks. Wealth Coffee Chat over and out. What's the point? What's the whole point of today's conversation? When we hear things going on, we need to, as investors, follow down a logical path and sort of see, well, what's going to happen? Where would it be? What would happen here? So there you go. All right. Hopefully you followed along today. Yeah, awesome, Alison. If you haven't already, I think there's oh yes, perfect, Alison. Rent's up. That's what happens. And good. Well done. Good on you. You're running a business. You're not a charity. This is important for us all to do as we go into it. All right, folks. Well, if you're in Melbourne and you want to go to hang out tonight, we're doing a pretty cool thing at the Iconic in Melbourne. Give your coach a quick email or a call right now and get yourself a ticket. Get along there. Excellent. All right. Brendan. No, I like that one, mate. So, hey, there's Chris is in Tassie. All right. Session on demographic. Yes. The baby boomers tapping out. What's going to happen? The wealthiest demographic Australia's ever seen. What are they going to do with their money? Good one. I'm onto that. Thanks, Brendan. I love it. And effects on regional hubs. Yeah. Yeah, there is that ripple happening, Brendan. All right, great. As Brendan's doing, folks, if there's anything you want me to cover, let me know. I like both of those suggestions, Brendan. Thanks, mate. Awesome stuff. I'll make sure I get onto that. You guys have an awesome weekend, and we'll catch up next week. Wealth Coffee Chat done and dusted. Over and out. Remember, we've got a couple sayings around here. This thing's a marathon, not a sprint. It's going to take time. And buy well, don't sell. That's what we talk about. All right, folks. Have a good one. Thanks for joining. Bye for now.